Welcome to Sacred Mindshift Circle. I'm your host, Dahlia Deborah O'Donnell, and today our guest is David Wheatley, an English farmer from Cambridgeshire and the heart and soul behind Petite Peonies at Willock Farm, where he has been cultivating peonies for many years and managing ancient orchards and apple varieties. Beyond that, he is a passionate advocate for sustainable farming and resilience in the face of adversity. In recent years, David has also become well known on social media, where he connects directly with his customers and shares his journey as a farmer, offering people a closer look at the realities of farming life in England. Welcome, David. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So tell me, why did you decide to become a farmer? Tell me a little bit about that.
Um, well, I'm a fourth generation farmer, so it's kind of in my blood. But it never started off that easy because my grandfather had some land, and then when my dad went into farming, they started a pig enterprise up and expanded some land as well. But I had eczema and asthma and a few allergies and stuff. So it's quite intensive on the pig side of things, and I couldn't go in any buildings. And back in those days, maybe the health and safety wasn't quite the same as it is these days, and I couldn't breathe very well in the sheds and that. So it put me off farming a little bit. So I took a different path, although I always helped out during busy periods and stuff like that, and cultivations and they grew potatoes as well. So I started off after college. I'd done a business and finance course, but when I left, my dad employed a pig person, which sadly died of cancer unexpectedly quite quickly. And after that, um, he was in a position he couldn't do both jobs at the same time. So he asked me to help him out. And combines didn't have the cabs on what they had in them days. And I dressed up in this spacesuit with a big helmet on and breathing apparatus and stuff. And yeah, and then I caught the bug again. So after that year, I gradually progressed farming in my own right. And I did like the business side of things and the planning and everything involved with it. I'll get bored quite easily sometimes. So you can do as many different things as you want or as little as what you want. So you're in control of the decisions you make. And then since then, we've grown in size with renting land from Cambridgeshire County Council, and now I've got a 450-acre holding in Cambridgeshire with my wife and two kids, where we grow a range of different crops from the flowers, peonies that we grow, ancient orchards, a bit of grassland, and then some conventional wheat and sugar beet and other crops as well.
And you have animals too, don't you? Because I saw you with the sheep.
Yeah, we've got a few animals. So yeah, under um, the orchards and that, we undergraze the orchards with a few sheep, and my wife's got a few miniature horses as well. And we've just, although I never did like the pigs because I couldn't go in them, but I've got a few pigs as well now, and they're outdoors, and it's I've grown out of my allergies a little bit now, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah, there are different ways and means that you can do stuff now to what it was in the past.
So a lot of the videos that I saw, the one that actually drew my attention, even before the peonies videos, was the one where you were talking about like your apples, and I think you had a picture of or you had a cake on the table, and you were talking about the variety of apples that you have and how unfortunately you can't ship some of them because they don't keep well. Can you tell me a little bit of the different types of apples and how you decided to start using social media to advertise your crops?
Yeah, so as because I'm on a council farm, it's been passed through the generations. So my landlord is Cambridgeshire County Council, and over a period of time, years ago, um, you could live off 2 to 5 acres of land. So the 450-acre holding I got probably had like 50 tenants or more. And they all had a little bit of land, so they probably had a bit of orchard and a bit of other land to grow vegetables and crops on that they could sell. And then now it's all got amalgamated up because farmers can't make a living off 2 to 5 acres of land anymore. So, and it's quite special in a way that the ancient orchard that I inherited it'd been quite neglected, so it'd just been run down and left because it's not really commercially viable anymore. The trees are 100 years old, and although they can last a long time, they're on really big trees which can't be picked as fast as some of the dwarfling rootstocks that are grown these days. But there's about 26 different varieties of apples in there, and there was a bit of money for funding to restore old orchards back when I started. I moved here in the year 2000. So I didn't know anything about orchards at the time, but because there was a bit of funding to get rid of the brambles and the elders and restore the orchards back into their original habitats. So I farm it more for wildlife than for commercial purposes. But now there is some fruit every year, and I've got better at identifying stuff. And the varieties were back from them days. They were grown for jams and things used to get used up straight away. Whereas now the retailers want to have something that can be transported easily without bruising, or can sit on a shelf for a period of time, or go into storage for even 10 to 12 months. And these varieties can't do that. So I did try to sell them before, but not very much success because where I'm from, around Wisbech area, there's quite a few apples everywhere, and I can't compete with like a mass market. But whereas now with social media, I'm getting a bit more of attention to people that maybe want to try something different to what you can't buy in the supermarket, and some of the tastes and flavors and textures are really good. And I feel like some of that has been lost by the fact that mass production of stuff, and quite rightly, it's been pushed out because they might not look as good or last as long and bruise easily sometimes. But there is like a niche market for people that just want to have a little taste of something that might have been about in like 100 years ago.
Yeah, obviously, I think that people nowadays are sometimes looking for things that are more organic. And you even made a video in regards to that, where although you don't use any pesticides or any chemicals on your apples, um, you said that it was impossible to label them as organic because of a fee that you have to pay. And this comes into the aspect of how, I guess, the government treats smaller farms. Can you go a little bit into some of the difficulties that a lot of English farmers face? Like you mentioned, they can't sustain themselves off of 2 to 3 acres nowadays.
Yeah, sure. So and when it progressed, like back in the beginning, I went through all the certification procedures. So I certified all my orchards as organic under the Organic Farmers and Growers certification, paid all the fees and done all the certification, which I've not got a real problem with any certifications of it. But on the scale that I was on, my orchards aren't really commercially viable anymore. So, and some years they don't produce any fruit. A lot of the time, you get a frost at the wrong time during the blossom period. They just don't have any apples on there at all. So I was paying the fees and doing the stuff. And back in them days, I was getting a slight premium for selling them as organic, but it never covered the losses in the years where there wasn't a lot of fruit, and I used to make some of it into juice and sell it as organic juice, and tried a bit of cider as well. But it just seems like and some people say £600 not a lot of money when I've got 22 acres of these orchards, and I've also planted another orchard, an 8.5 acre one with 250 different varieties in. But on a small scale, it cost me more money to prune, more money to pick, more money to do everything, and with labour prices going up and everything else, it just wasn't sustainable anymore. So I pulled out of the scheme, and for a period of years, I never even picked the fruit because I just let it go on the floor because it wasn't worth the amount of money that I could sell it for juice and cider purposes. And as my social media grew through selling my flowers, I tried it the other year just to see if people wanted it. And my mindset was a little bit like nobody's going to want the fruit. It doesn't look very nice. It's not going to store very long, and it just went a little bit mental. So and I made a post about I don't sell my apples as organic because I don't pay £600 a year, and it was like I can't promote them as organic, but I don't use any sprays and fertilizers in my orchards. So and people that I probably got as much hate as good from it, but I'll take both, and it helped with the traction and stuff. And from now I've got we're selling apples in the post for rightly or wrongly for more money than what people sell organic fruit for, because there's and it's a different outlet now. So I'm not marketing my fruit as organic or not organic. I'm just marketing it from, well, if you want to try some of these varieties that you're not going to get anywhere else, I've got some, and there's only a limited number of supply. And people might think I'm making loads of money out of it. It costs me a lot of money to go around and pick everything individually and package it up. And I do pay more for postage because I want them to. We pick them on hopefully the same day as what we dispatch, and then are you going to try and receive an apple as close to the picking date as possible? And some of them may need a few days to ripen off, but it seems to be working okay now, and whether that's going to last or not, I don't know. But now my market is a little bit more. We sell anywhere in the UK, and I don't need that many people interested, but there are enough people that are trying it and giving it a go.
That's fantastic, actually, because I think, it's still a great way to not let those apples go to use. And I think that there are a lot of people who probably are very interested in that. I think if you, especially the concept of like, wow, this tree has been there like 100 years, and it's not what we're used to anymore seeing in the supermarket. And a lot of times you go to a supermarket and a lot of the apples and the fruits are coming in from other countries. They're not. And I mean, obviously you're in England. I'm in France, but I was living in Spain, so I can compare a bit, because in Spain, normally a lot of their food actually is grown in the country. And, and I've spoken to old timers who have, told me how it was in the past and how even now it's changed, and they're unhappy with certain things because of, I guess, EU regulations where they're not allowed to maybe grow a certain amount over, or they have, but for the most part, they tend to grow most of their own food in Spain, and it's cheaper, and a lot of it looks more natural. Tell me, for example, in England, what do you think about the way, I guess, small farmers are treated by the government in terms of outsourcing products and fruits to sell in the markets versus going to smaller farms?
Yeah, so within the UK, I don't think we can't produce anything cheaper than some other countries. So a lot of it is to do with the price, especially with like the supermarkets or like bigger buyers, because the world has got a lot smaller now than what it used to be, and we can ship stuff from anywhere in the world for presumably not great amount of money. I can't understand how we can like buy lamb from New Zealand and bring it here cheaper than what we can grow it for ourselves. But that is reality, and the consumer shops on price predominantly most of the time, and there are other outlets that you can do stuff. But as a small grower, I haven't got enough selling power to say no to the bigger buyers. And we used to sell our flowers to the supermarkets. And the other year I did say no. I'm going to try and do it myself, and it has worked okay. But for other farmers that are dealing with bigger corporations, saying no is sometimes not an option. And and I do feel like we do get a little bit bullied by well, they say we can bring it in from other countries cheaper than what we're paying you, and 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 they're not going anywhere to try and market our produce as like where we are in the UK as British or anything like that. There doesn't seem like a two-tier system or anything like that, and I feel like we should be looking after our own farmers, because once they're gone, then they ain't coming back, and it's a difficult position to be in, because yeah, you don't know what you've lost until it's gone. But there are twos and fours and against for most things and stuff, and we have got to be competitive in the market as well. So whether these rules and regulations that we have on us, I don't know if they're the same in other countries, and the public wants like the traceability. That's why I haven't got a big problem with the certifications, because they serve a purpose. But then if we're bringing in lesser class stuff that's being eaten on our shelves and nobody's looking at it, then I don't mind a like for like comparison with stuff. But when it's not like for like, then we either should be sold as a premium or market it as one.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing. I mean, because I'm American, so I've heard similar stories from a lot of American farmers as well, saying the same thing. And it's unfortunate because, it kills I guess you could say, what is something that I think is very special, that you have farmers from your own country that are producing and all of this, and it leads it to the death of that sector. You know what I mean? And it's a very unfortunate. Tell me a little bit, because you've also spoken a lot about your flowers, and you have a lot of videos about it, and you have actually petite peonies. Tell me a little bit about how you started with that, and what was the motivation and the idea behind the flowers?
The motivation was probably more from desperation than from anything else, and from a lot of people. COVID changed everything. So I used to deal with supermarkets and markets, and that's all I wanted to do. So I've been brought up with that, and as farmers, we produce a lot of produce, and we're not going to all be able to sell that online in a postage box delivered direct to the consumer, or so I thought. But the flowers started off on the year where COVID hit, and I picked my flowers, and then all the markets shut down. So there was no market for any of them, and I lost a lot of money. So you start looking for other backup plans, because even when the markets opened, they weren't as good or as full as what they ever was. So and they didn't look like they was going to go back again. And with so in the days of when my dad and my grandfather was, then it's not the same anymore. We're a lot more digital now, and people expect um, um, things to be delivered to their door within the next day, if not the same day. And you've got to try and find a way of either trying to compete with that, or finding a niche way of marketing and selling your stuff. So I wasn't a very open and foregoing salesman before pre-COVID, and means need must, or sometimes that I had to change. So I tried it, and for a number of years it didn't work out very successfully. But then you keep improving and trying more stuff, and it seems to be working now. And I feel like maybe buying from supermarkets or even Amazon and big corporations, we've lost a lot of the individuality of dealing with direct greengrocers or where you're buying your produce from. And I feel like I'm social media is giving that back again. So I feel like people can understand me more when there are problems sometimes and that, and they do feel um, they do understand it better when something happens when you explain stuff like individual apples or even problems with flowers sometimes. The reasons why it does it, because there's a lot of things in farming that's not in my control or anybody else's, because Mother Nature's quite a force to be reckoned with that I'm not in control of like 90% of everything that I do. So um, and the flowers I've picked up in such a way that I've expanded that into apples, and I'd like to see what else we can do on the farm in order to um, um, make the gap shorter between the farmer to the consumer.
Yeah, I think social media allows people to be more direct and have more connection with their audience. So that is very helpful. When you go on to say, like, you're not in control of the weather, you're not in control of how certain things are going to happen, these are all things that a lot of farmers deal with. Um, for people who are interested in starting farming, because a lot of people in the States want to maybe change their lifestyle and begin homesteading. What would be some things that you would recommend to them?
Yeah, so as a farmer, I know what I know, and I've built up that knowledge over the in the past and through my father and my grandfather as well. But there's so much more out there that I don't know. And anybody wanting to get into growing your own, I highly recommend it. But I quite naively said I wanna I want to feed one person for 1 acre for 1 year. And with farming, you've got to forward plan quite a lot. So it takes a little while to like plan everything and produce the produce that you need for the following year. So I've been trying to grow lots of different crops this year on 1 acre. And I thought I was in a good position to do that because I'm a farmer. I've got machinery and knowledge and know-how, and I'm supposed to be expertise in this area. But this year has been one of the most challenging years I've ever seen because in the UK, where we're in East Anglia, we've had no rain for like 6 months. It's rained a couple of times, and then a couple of times I've managed to get quite a lot of crops in perfect conditions. But the books don't tell you that if it don't rain, then and you've got no irrigation, then it's not going to grow. So and sometimes it's not a problem if it not growing because the seed just stays there until it does grow. But if it grows and then it can die, and then you can get all the if there's not a lot of food for anything else out there, all the pigeons and crows and rabbits eat it, and there's pests and bugs and insects that are hungry as well. And Mother Nature teaches you who is in control. So I'm still trying to live off 1 acre next year, but there's a diminishing amount of food that's being produced. So anybody wanting to start, I'd maybe say start small and concentrate on maybe one or two things that you want to substitute for what you are buying at the moment, and search them up and give it a go. So what you concentrate on usually is is what you can learn. So and get good at them one or two things, and then add some more in the following year. If you try and do it all at the same time, it's time and resources is and time and effort is quite draining sometimes, especially with farming when it's not going very well. Because when one thing's not going very well, usually everything's not going very well. And this year's been quite challenging with peonies and the wheat and the sugar beet that I'm already growing on the rest of the farm. We've had some quite challenging times, and the biggest challenge is trying to make any money out of the things that you've got, because if there's nothing to sell, then you're not making any money and you can't continue next year. So I'm not trying to put anybody off, but start within your means, and start with something that you're interested in as well. And then when it's successful, though, you'll reap the rewards from it.
Yeah, I think that's very important because I don't know, some people like me myself, I can't hardly grow anything. I'm very horrible at growing things. But you also told spoke about a situation that happened with your farm that you had a big fire at one point on your farm. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and how you recovered from it?
Yeah, so that was pre-COVID, just before it hit, and the fire started accidentally somewhere, and it burnt all of my sheds, and we lost three horses and some livestock, and all of the buildings and everything. So before that, everything was going all right, and then after that, it just seemed like one thing after the other. I was led into a downward spiral, and did go into a state of depression as well, because that's your whole life gone in one night. Um, and 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 that is hard to get back up from, and there are so many reasons not to stay. But this is your life. This is what you do. So and the more you carried on, then COVID hit, and then there was a bigger financial hit from COVID through the things that I thought was going to keep us going. Um, and and financially, the margins are pretty small anyway with farming. So you don't need a lot to happen before it gets worse. And when something major happens, it gets worse fast. And there was a period of time where I did think we were going to go bankrupt. And but that semi has forced me into doing things that I didn't necessarily want to do. As I posting on social media seemed like a last ditch effort of like trying something, and 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 it's worked for me. And I'd encourage other people that you don't get yourself in a position where you need to do it before you can do it. And if you're not making so much money out of a farm or some land or something like that, then it was not something that I would have wanted to ever do and expose myself onto social media in such a way. But now that I've done it and seen what it is capable of, then I'd encourage anybody to do the same.
Yeah, that sounds like very it's in some ways traumatic, especially like the way you described it, as seeing all of the things that you've invested in gone, especially so quickly. And as you said, you have children, you have a family, and this has been something that has been passed down to you. So I imagine that for your children, I'm sure, kids today, they want to be on Roblox. Maybe farming is not like the first thing on their mind. But do you think that, like, for your children, for your legacy, what would you like to leave to them? And, you know, what would you what would you like them to understand after seeing your ups and downs as a farmer and, you know, coming back from a fire and all of these kind of things? What would be something that you would say to them or teach them or want them to understand from it all?
Yeah, so I've got two girls, so both of my girls are now adults, like 19 and nearly 21. Um, and I do kind of encourage them not to go into farming and push them in a different direction. But I said my youngest one is she's tried a year at uni and didn't really like it, and now she wants to have a go at a little bit of farming. So I ain't got a problem with that. But as with like the problems that I had back when I started, it's not going to be the same as when my dad or father was farming, and the same relates to her as well. So and it is it's nice having a bit of new blood and new ideas because there's new ways of doing stuff now and I'm just trying to dip my foot into it now. But there's the resilience of getting back up again. And with farming, it's in some ways it is hard on a difficult year, but you do know that once them crops are done and next year's not going to be the same. So it's a completely fresh slate of a new thing, and it might not even be better, or it might be worse. So you don't know what to expect. So no year is going to be the same, and now I used to spend hours with like a knapsack spraying chemicals, walking up and down my flowers, and that's not something that I want her to go through. And I am looking at other ways of doing things, and I'm not saying that I do use fertilizers and chemicals on the rest of the farm, and I'm not an advocate against using them. But with like there's new techniques into regenerative farming and other ways and means of farming, and I do believe that there is the answers out there in the world. And the world is such a small place now that people contact me all the time through my social media and give me some ideas about what I could try. And I like the thought of I don't think that I'm the person to find all the answers, but if I'm trying to find the answers, then that might help her or somebody else find some more answers to farm in a better way, sustainably, without hurting the environment or producing food in a better way. So, gone the not gone of all my beliefs about just producing massive amounts of food and trying to make loads of profit, but to try and do that in such a way that links the soil up with the environment um, and future children to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think we never really know in what direction the world is going in. And, at least in the States, there's this feeling that people should start to learn how to be able to sustain themselves and how to be able to maybe grow some of their own foods, even despite the government maybe making it harder for a lot of people to do so. And obviously, going from all of the things that you explained, trying your luck with the peonies, coming back after a fire, and then never really knowing what Mother Nature is going to do. Every year is different. I think, also the idea is that we kind of have to just, I guess, just have a little bit of belief in everything that we're doing, right? Just to hope for the best and make sure that we have confidence in what we're doing, and that everything in the end will turn out okay as long as we try our best, I guess. Well, thank you so much, David, for being a guest on my show and discussing this. And I hope that a lot of people see it and also bring you more customers to buying your apples and your peonies. And if anyone wants more information, I'll be linking all of his webpage and information in the podcast. And be sure to subscribe to sacredmindshift.com so that you never miss another important podcast or event in the future. And thank you so much, David.
Thank you for having me on here. Very good.
Okay. Okay. Bye bye. God bless.